I'm actually 7 years in missions with GX International, but my missions journey started back in 2009. So this October marks 10 years as a full-time missionary with YWAM, our Youth of the Mission. And I wasn't always planning on going into YWAM. Or being a missionary for that matter. That kind of came to me more towards my later years of high school. I kind of wanted what everybody else wanted, I grew up, I went to high school and then go to college, And being a bigger fella, I thought, there could be potential to play football in college. But I'm going to leave you with that, and we're going to kind of retract a little bit, okay? Awesome. So, just to kind of start my background, I am from a little town called Angels Camp, California. It is in the Central Valley. I think the most known cities kind of close to it are Stockton, Modesto, and Sacramento. And it's just a little buried in there. It's a cute little town. And I grew up with my grandma, my grandpa, literally living 5 minutes away. That's one set. That's my dad's set. And then my mom's set literally lived 5 minutes the other way. I went to school with all my cousins. And the high school I graduated from, kind of fun, I was the 5th generation graduate from that high school. So, and we're 7 generations in this hometown. So I kind of laughed. A lot of people go to Ancestry.com, right, to find out their lineage and where they're from and all these things. They pay hundreds of dollars. And growing up, I was like, hey, Grandma, Grandpa. I love talking to Grandma and Grandpa. And we'd sit down and go, so where are we from? And they could be like, I'm happy you asked. Come with me. We hop in my grandpa's old Ford pickup truck. We drive about 10 minutes down to the cemetery, and it's 2 lanes. So, this is kind of the road going out. This side of the road was the Presbyterians. This side of the road was the Catholics. Not Presbyterians, sorry, Protestants. We're getting into denominations. I'm not good with those. But, so I'd see on the Catholic side, my great 7 times that way, grandfather. And he came from a little town called Orolo, Italy. And he was one of the first people to start the cattle trade up in that part of the foothills. So my families are actually cattle ranchers by trade. And so that's just kind of fun, So I grew up in Angels Camp. It was the time of my life, Grew up to an amazing mother, amazing father, grandparents on both sides. I had the ability to, I only had one sister. But I felt like I had 5 brothers because my cousins were literally that close. And we spent more time with them than we did our own families, So it was just a blessing. I really, really enjoyed my childhood. Got to work on the ranch as a kid. I was able to, one of the funnest jobs I ever had, I learned how to change irrigation pipes when I was 7 with my great-grandfather. That was an interesting experience because my great-grandfather was not a Christian. And if you didn't do the right thing the right way, he had some pretty colorful language. So I learned how to cuss at a very young age because of my great-grandfather. Grumpy old fart, let me tell you what, but he was funny. I loved him to death. And so that's actually, we'll get into the little skiing part. Skiing was a part of my life too. That was something that I kind of didn't have a choice to do, but just kind of, fell into. And I ski raced for so many years, and just the discipline of it, with my dad, because my dad was my coach, unfortunately. I don't know if you've ever been coached by your father, but my father was my coach, which, looking back on it, I was kind of blessed because, as Mercedes said, my uncle was a 3-time Olympian. He went to 92, 94, and 98 Olympics, and my father was actually able to coach him on the Olympic team. Back in 96, he was asked to be the head coach for the U.S. ski team, and he didn't take it because 1995, about 4 months before that offer came, my mom just had my little sister. And he saw what that did to my uncle's family. My uncle was, I had a cousin born January of 94. And Olympics normally for Winter Olympics, don't start until the first or second week of February. So he was already it was in Lillehammer, Norway. And he was already over there training. He flew back on the red eye just in time for his daughter's birth on January 13th. He got to hold her for not that long, drove back to the airport, hopped on a plane, and went back to Norway. So he saw that and goes, no, that's not what I want for my kids. And my topic today is the father's heart, which kind of ties into everything I'm talking about, because seeing God as a father was easy for me, strictly because I did have a father, even when he wasn't really walking with Jesus. He was a super duper supportive father. He was a father who was around at all times. He used to take me out every Friday to go fishing when I was a little kid. I was actually about, where's Elizabeth? My 4-year-old. She's right there, about her age. And my dad would take me out of school every day around noon. We'd drive over to my great-grandfather's house, the grumpy old fart I was talking about earlier. And he had 4 ponds, so we'd just go fishing in his pond. And that's just something that really, really marked me. By the way, for those of you who are new, I kind of skipped this. I have a beautiful wife, Layla, right there. Hi, Layla. I have 3 gorgeous girls. I have Elizabeth, Emily, and Evelyn. Hi, girls. The Lord is good. He gave me things I don't deserve, and those 4 over there don't deserve them, but he's truly, truly blessed me with that. So, continuing on, going on with my, with this father thing. So, I grew up as a Catholic, and I don't know if you guys grew up Catholic, but a lot of the things that, people get from the Catholic Church is God's really, he's more like a Zeus. He's waiting up there, waiting to punish you. You follow these rules, or else, you don't, we smite you or smack you or whatever the type of terminology they used. So that's kind of how I grew up, and as a Catholic background, and I kind of accepted that because it made sense to me, especially coming from a skiing background at the level that I was able to reach, and coming from a football background. All right, so you do what you're told. And if you do wrong, you get smacked, smited, or in trouble. Makes sense. Okay, that's cool. That's what football is. That's what skiing was for me, And not that my dad ever smacked me, but we had to do some stupid things. If you got in trouble skiing, you actually had to go at the bottom of the hill. He made you take off your skis, and he made you hike up all the way to the top. I never had to do that. Thank you, Jesus, for older skiers who were, I'm saying this very nicely, were idiots and got in big trouble. And so my dad made them hike. So I learned that the hard way. So growing up with that type of mindset, that's how I visioned God, Okay, cool. So he's up there. He's in heaven. He's looking down on me, and he's waiting for me to get in trouble. Makes sense because, that's what I've known my whole life. So then years pass on, and I start getting in high school, and midway through high school, about my junior year, I just knew that university wasn't really an area that I was going to go. I don't know why. I didn't take football as seriously as I should have, and I hated to study. So I was kind of like, well, I don't like to study. Football's not as fun as I thought it was. Why would I go to university? What's another outing I could do, or another road I could take? And about January, going into my senior year, so it's first part of senior year, January, graduation. We had a group from YWAM come up. I can't remember exactly where they were, but they came up and visited the church. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with YWAM, but they are infamous for doing these songs and these performances and stuff like that. So they came to my church and did a performance. And I saw them, I was like, okay, this is cool. I like these guys. This is an opportunity for me. This is something I could do. And I had two friends previously do their DTS at YWAM Denver. And so they kind of gave me information on it. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do this thing. but where do I want to go? And from a young age, I've always had the heart to travel. I actually told my mom when I was 7, Mommy, I'm going to travel the world and look at animals. I was obsessed with this animal show where people would go to like the Amazon and find all these really, really cool animals and stuff like that. So I told my mom, I'm going to do that. So God had the heart he gave me the heart to travel, but it wasn't to go find animals, first off. So I found a YWAM base in Australia, Perth, Australia. But that wasn't the first place I was supposed to go. Like I found this thing, I was like, I want to go to Brisbane. And this all makes sense, I promise. This road's actually leading to Layla right now. So we're going to go there, and then it's kind of funny. So I was supposed to go to Brisbane, Australia, but they canceled it. So then they put Perth, Australia on there. And once I got to Perth, Australia, this place was gorgeous. I don't know if y'all ever been to Australia or ever plan on going. Go. It's absolutely gorgeous. And while I was down there, then I was like, okay, God started speaking to me more about this calling to missions. Now, discipleship training school, for those of you guys who don't know, is like your entry into ministry with YWAM. That's like an entry school for YWAM. It's a 6-month school. It's 3 months of study, and then 3 months of outreach, where you actually go out and do what you've practiced. And so that's when I got my word that, I was going to be an evangelist. This guy literally, I had 2 words, but he picked me out in the middle of a church service. I was in the back. I was wearing a black shirt, and I literally walked in late, and he pointed to me and said, you're going to do evangelism in an extreme different way. I was like, okay, you're crazy. You don't know me, but I wanted to go back to school eventually, right? But then things just started lining up. One thing led to another. I ended up doing the school with this young lady named Sasha. Sasha was the daughter of Kevin Stark, who actually runs Team Extreme here in Kansas City. And so that's when I moved to Kansas City. My first tour ever with them was in the Philippines about 3 or 4 months after my discipleship training school. That's where I met Layla in the Philippines. Hallelujah. And my life's been the best ever since. And then after that, Layla and I started staffing schools together. And this, my friends, is where the Father Heart comes in. I promise you. Okay. So we were staffing one of the schools. And we had a teacher come down. And he taught on the Father Heart. And his name was Anderson Bonfin. And I guess it wasn't like the Father's Heart, but that's kind of like the line he was going. And that was my first time really understanding that God was not that evil God that I thought he was. That like Zeus, who was looking down on me, waiting to throw lightning bolts at me. But he was love. He created me not to rule me, not to control me, not to wait for me to get in trouble. But he created me for purpose. He created me for relationship. And that opened my eyes in such a crazy way. And for a lot of us, younger people, especially this generation, if we relate, God as a father, then a lot of our hearts turn to hatred because a lot of people don't have great fathers. A lot of people who have fathers who left them, fathers who beat them, fathers who beat their wives, fathers who, just were alive but just weren't present. And that really, really, really hurts the kids. And the way that this man brought what the Father's heart truly is seriously changed my outlook on the way I see God. It even helps the way I share the gospel. And my heart now is to really show people, okay, you might have had a really crappy father. That's super unfortunate. That's, you don't choose the father you have, right? But there is a Father in heaven who is not like that. So that's kind of where we go into this part. My first verse is in Genesis 1:27. And it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them, and he created them, period. I put another note. I almost read my note to you. And you're just looking at that just, at least to me, that just sticks out like, okay, God of the universe who literally spent time creating everything perfectly, created you and I in his image. The only thing that God said, I want to create this in my image is us. That's Emily. She's created my image. That's actually part of the teaching. Good timing, baby girl. You have chocolate on your butt. Go see your mom. But he created the fish. He created the animals of the sea. And I'm just like, wow. He wanted us to look like him. And that to me at least stuck out like, okay, so he loves us so much that he wanted to give us everything. And he didn't only give us everything, he gave us domain over the earth completely. So those animals that he created, he's like, I want you to steward, I want you to take care of the land and be fruitful and multiply. And even that part is part of his goodness too. I mean, is everybody married in here? Most of you married with children? I mean, how awesome is the reproduction part? That's code for sex. It's awesome. Like, even that he gave that to us to enjoy and to just, that shows his love in itself, you know? And that's just, it's so much fun. And it's just, the more and more I just kind of read and break down this specific verse, I mean, I sat there just staring at this like, he created man in his own image. Created male and female. And he created us to be together as one. And through that reproduction system, it's like, so God created us, we look like him. God took a male and a female, and together we create little babies like Emily and Lizzie and Evelyn, who, you know, God is so perfect that he took this image from Layla, this image from Everett, this personality, my height, Layla's color, my hair, their eyes. I mean, if you look at my kids, they're such a crazy mix of us. And that's just his intention. Sorry, dealing with the chest cold. But that was his initial plan from the get-go, because he created us. And so that just shows his love. And so when I found out for the first time that that's who God was, he wanted us to be loved. He is love. He wanted to show love for us. And you kind of get that mental image of that's how God is. And as I was telling you earlier, people relate to their own fathers that way, right? Well, going back to the story with my dad is, for me, that was something easy to grasp. Because my dad was such a good dad. My dad was such a present dad. I mean, we had our fights. You know, he's not a perfect man. And, you know, I'll be honest with you. Remember how I told you my grandfather or my great-grandfather turned into a grumpy old fart? He's on that road. He's on that road because, talk about, he's a spit ninja, my great-grandfather. Physically, it's actually really funny. We're not going to get into genetics, so that stuff's just crazy. But just the way that he presented himself, even when he didn't really know who God was. You know, he didn't know how necessarily, because he didn't see that out of his own father. My grandfather was a good guy, but, I mean, he had 4 kids by the time he was 21, my grandfather did. And he was just trying to figure out how to survive. So the fact that my father was such a caring, loving father, knew how to take care of his family, always treated my mom with nothing but respect. The way that man treated my mom, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, they fought, but they fought behind closed doors. Funny story about my mom. She wasn't very good at backing up. I'll just be the first person to admit that. She's great going forward. You put that woman in reverse, she will hit whatever you have behind her. Not her fault, but we had 2 Subaru Outbacks. I remember this vividly like it was yesterday. And my dad used to drive a big old Chevy truck. And I'm talking about big old Chevy truck. My mom put that thing in reverse. She looked behind her. Crunch! And she walks in crying, Jeff, I just wrecked the car. And in his mind, he's probably like, are you kidding me? But he grabbed her and hugged her and said, it's okay, Trace, I love you, you're fine. And so they got it fixed. 3 years later, we moved to a new house, new Subaru Outback. Mind you, this is the last year we ever bought a Subaru Outback. I'm just throwing that out there. and we had a big old Ford truck. My mom's backing out of the driveway. Crunch! She comes in crying, Jeff, I just crashed the Subaru. And I could see his face. Oh no, not again. But he hugged her and he held her and he said, it's okay, babe. You're fine. Went, got it fixed. And then from then on, she bought a Yukon Denali, which doesn't really crash that easy. I see her and my dad was thinking on that one. You back that thing into a tree, you're taking out the tree, not the car. So my dad's very strategic. And now he bought her a Beamer, and fun fact, I actually wrecked that thing. Metal poles and Beamers, not a good connection. Or screaming kids in the back, but that's a different story for a different day. But just seeing the way he treated her just, showed me so much about who he was. And so how I relate the love of God to that specifically was just so easy for me. And now I just got to check my notes here. And so one of the things, too, is that I got from this young man who was preaching on the Father Heart was that us as men, and women too, but we're talking about men today, ladies, I'm sorry. But we are God's representation here on earth. How we treat our kids, how we treat our wives, that is the physical representation of how these kids will perceive God, and it's just, you think about that. That's such a crazy, crazy, crazy thought, the way I treat my wife and the way I talk to my daughters, that in their little minds, once they fully understand their relationship with Jesus, that is going to be how they can relate to the Father. Now, I also agree there's total redemption in everything, my wife, she didn't necessarily have the background that I had growing up. She had a little bit different, and but the Lord is good. The Lord totally redeemed that in her, and now she's able to walk with God, not just as the way that her father lived his life, but the way that, she fully can depend on him as father, And it's funny because, I never thought that, I don't want to say I didn't get anything negative from my dad, but one of the things that my wife and I were just talking about the other day is we were talking about finances and money. And growing up, I believe for the longest time that if I want breakthrough in a financial area from God, I have to do something to get it, Not just ask for it, but because in my household, it was like this. If I wanted something, if I wanted a new computer, if I wanted a new Xbox, I didn't drive that. I didn't get my license until I was 20. But if I wanted a phone, if I wanted something, my dad would be like this, okay, you have X amount of time to work for it. What you raise is what you raise. I'll match it or I'll just take care of the rest of it. So up until even a couple months ago, that was my thought with God. I'm like, okay, cool. So if I am going on a trip and I need money, I have to at least raise part of it. Because, he wants to see me working, right? Yeah, well, that's not necessarily how he is. But I would work my tail off. I'd raise X amount of money. And then I'd be like, okay, cool. I got half. Where's the rest? Type thing, And this last trip, fundraising for Myanmar, it was incredible. I was able to raise 98% of it in less than 5 days. And I did not work for it. I wanted to. I thought, well, you know what, I can go raise this, or I can go make this much and then ask for this much type thing. I didn't have enough time to work for it for how quickly it came in. And I'm just like, God, you are good. I don't need to work for it. And if I look at it from a father's standpoint too, this is my hard part. If Lizzie comes up to me and says, Daddy, can I buy some shoes? My reaction is yes. Do we have it? No. But you want to say yes to your kids. Hey, Daddy, can I have this new toy? And you see her little face, you're like, yes. And then I look at her mom and we talk. No, we can't get that. Or my wife, my wife really, really, she has some things that she wants. Praise report, we were able to buy her a new pair of pants yesterday. Praise the Lord, that's a good thing. And now she wants an iWatch, and I want to be able to get that iWatch for her. But I can't right now, So it's like our heart is always to give. We want to give our kids. And that's the way God is. So that's just another attribute of who God is that, through this process and that I'm learning, And we're getting there. We're getting there, guys. We're moving along. And it's just every day, just learning more with him and spending time with him, because that's what he wants initially, right? It's not about what we can do for him. It's what he's already done for us. One of the biggest things that I always look back at is the gospel story. Funny, I actually told my daughter I'm not going to preach the gospel today, but I guess I'm going to share a little bit about it. Yesterday in the car, we're going out. She's like, hey, Daddy, are you going to preach the gospel? I go, the gospel, baby. Like, yeah, you're going to preach the gospel. I go, no, but it turns out that I might. So just kind of looking back at the initial creation that God did, he created us, right? He put a tree. He put trees in the garden, the one tree we couldn't get. And I always asked, why in the name of Sam's, all that is holy, did you put that stupid tree there? You didn't put it. We don't have sin. We're fine. We don't have to go through this whole thing, people's hearts having to get, Jim Richards would be at the job. He wouldn't be having heart physics, that's for sure, if they never had that tree of knowledge of good and evil. But I'm just like, why? And just understanding over years that true love you have to have a choice to choose it. You can't be forced at gunpoint. You can't be forced to have that. So I'm still like, okay, God, I'm thinking about this. You have a tree in there, the garden of good and evil, the knowledge of good and evil. You have everything beautiful. And then your wife, butt naked, mind you, butt naked. You don't know she's naked, but she's butt naked. Hey, eat this plant or eat this fruit. Okay. Why not? And my wife came to me buck naked and said, hey, eat this. Yes. That's just how it is. That's how I work, And so, you had to have that choice. You had to have that choice to say yes or no to him, which in the long run, our relationship with God now is so much more powerful because we had that choice. And where I'm going with this is, so yes, we fell. Yes, we are separated from God. Yes, we got kicked out of the garden. But he loved us so much, and that he wanted us to be connected with him. He wanted that relationship. As a father, I want a relationship with my daughters the rest of our lives. I don't ever want my daughters to be separated from me. If something happened where our relationship was severed and broken, I would chase after that thing so hard. The same way he did. He's like, okay, they sinned. And he's just crazy because, when he gave us domain, he literally gave us domain over everything. He could not and would not he could, but he would not intervene and say, whoops, you guys screwed up. I'm taking you out, taking that back. He never took it back. What happened was, when we let sin come in, we gave authority. I don't necessarily believe we gave dominion and everything over to the devil, but we gave him authority over our lives. That's about it. I think it's different than, oh, here you go, here's everything, devil, run this earth. No, we gave him authority to run that part. And then God's like, okay, of course, they made that mistake. And he's just so good that he's like, okay, I guess I have to come back down as human, as a man. I can't come down as God because I gave humans domain. So I have to come down as a human because I gave humans domain to take it back. So I'll send my son, we'll die on a cross, literally just take everything back and give it to the people who screwed it up, who gave authority back who gave authority to the devil. And it's just like, he literally jumped through, not jumped because he's God, but he literally went through everything to bring us back to him and to give us back that domain that we gave to the devil. And it's just like, if that doesn't show his love, if that shows you as a God who is controlling, if that shows you a God who's just sitting up there waiting to smite you and kill you, then there's something wrong with you, because that's not it, And, thank you. You learn a lot. And, that's just part of what God's really been speaking to me and kind of understanding as a father. Holy cow. And we still have time. All right, good. We have a couple more points, but it's only 11:10, guys. So, hey, what time's the communion thing? We're rolling when I finish. You're a blessed man, Mercedes. That might be a while. Or not, actually. And so it is one of those things that's just the way I actually share about God has just changed so much, because once you, hold up here. Once you understand that bit, it just changes everything. I mean, I remember back when I used to read the Old Testament, and I almost thought that God wasn't like schizophrenic, but I'm like, wow, he's angry. And then, oh, he's happy. Oh, he's angry. Oh, he's not that angry. And I'm like, well, if God is good, why would he flood the earth? Well, then you listen to somebody who actually studies the Bible. It goes on and tells you, oh, by the way, these people have been stupid for over 300 plus years. That was the final straw. And he says, we're just going to wipe these people out and recreate. But we're going to save Moses and his family. Sorry, Noah, not Moses. I'm learning the Bible, guys. Don't judge me. Moses and Noah are two different people, two different time periods. But just his plan through that too. And as you're just going through, and just how many times the Israelites, yay, we're saved. Crap, we're taking over. Oh, hey, we're good again. Oh no, this guy's taking over. It's just, God keeps saving them, but because they're humans, we just keep falling and falling and falling back into it. It's just like, oh, it's like children. Don't touch the stove. You're going to burn yourself. Ow! I told you, don't touch the stove. Okay, I won't do it again, Daddy. A couple weeks later, ow! No, that's the stove. It's still hot, baby girl. Don't touch the stove. But that's just who God is. And to kind of wrap this thing up, you guys, I kind of have a little bit of verses here that I just kind of want to take home. And, real quick, we're going to fill this in with a fun fact. I was listening to a preaching by a guy named Chris Valentin. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. He's from Bethel. And he's been doing a series on, I don't want to call it fatherlessness, but just the effects of not having a physical father around. And he grew up without a father. And his father died when he was 3, drowned. And then he had several stepfathers who just treated him like poop. But he was saying, like, he did like a research before he went in on this teaching. And he was saying this generation right now is the most fatherless generation since the Civil War. And the Civil War was obviously a lot less people because it was early on in America. But those people, they went to war and they were fighting. This is the largest fatherless generation with fathers who are alive, but just aren't present. And he just starts going through statistics on, so that like this percentage of this happening is a lot higher if you don't have a father in the group, or this percentage of this happening. I'm not going to say them out loud because my kids are in the back and I do not want to answer those questions. But this is going to happen without having a father around. And, it's just, I don't know, I'll say it, whatever. But this LBGQRSTUV, however many letters they decide to put on it, I don't know. I feel like more letters are added every day. They're trying to take away something that was created for good. Like, guys, we need fathers. We need mothers, but we need fathers, especially men these days. I mean, I'm not going to go down that route. But even daughters too, like we think about it, we need men who are raising up, these girls, showing them what a man's supposed to be, a father who shows them what a loving touch is. Unfortunately, these girls have so much confusion about what sexuality is because this happened to them at this age and it was done by a man, so they think it's okay, and just teaching them the right touch. And y'all, you saw my girls. I have my hands full over the next 25 years. Teaching these 3 on what a father is. And, I think that's why this topic hits me so hard is I want people to know who don't have fathers that, we're supposed to be representation of who God is. That is our job as men, And I see so many amazing fathers in here, people that I look up to physically in Cleve and spiritually, and a lot of people here that they've already been through it. They've already raised their kids are off, they have grandkids, and, those are the people that we, as younger adults, need to look into. How did you raise your kids in this godly manner? Like everything's here. Everything that we're supposed to be doing is here in the Bible, And I think that, there's a lot was said. I'm kind of going all over, but if I could get one thing out, it's not like I'm condemning fathers to be better fathers. That's not what I ever want to do, because I'm not perfect. As I said, I had a dad, as you guys, you've never met him before, but if you met him, you could say like, wow, he wasn't perfect, but Everett had an okay lifestyle. He had a very present father. And I think my main thing I actually want to get across to you is that, God is Father. He loves you, and all those people who are lost, who did have crappy fathers, I think my goal is for them to know that, this is the true God, and really, really, really want to see their hearts set free from all the bondage and all the BS that they have going on in their lives and who they think God is, and go into an area of who he truly is. And that just begins with spending time with the Father. Y'all, I'm dead serious when I say this. You ask me any question about my father, I could tell you everything from the time he was born to how much he weighed when he was born. I could tell you what scar he has. I could tell you how he got that scar. I could tell you what makes him mad better than most people make him mad. It's just, I never knew how much I really knew him until him and I were sitting around, and my daughters noticed, Grandpa, you have a big old scar on your rib. Grandpa, you have a big old scar on your knee. What happened? Hey, Grandpa, how come that vein in your head is sticking out? And I can literally just tell them, girls, Grandpa fell off a 20-foot cliff into a stream, and a horse fell on his knee when he was 13. Or the story of the rib, I can't tell the full story, but you guys are all adults. And I could tell you that he was having a night terror, and he was in his underdrawers, and he was spending the night at my mom's house back when he was 20 years old, and he was running away from a fallen tree trying to save her, and he ran into one of those old school boom boxes, and the scar is literally this long, and it was deep. I could tell you, hey, you want to make him mad, start talking about, I don't know, the list goes on and on and on. Mess up his room, or make fun of him for ironing his underwear and his pants. Church pants is okay, but you don't iron pants you're going skiing in. You just don't do it. So it's just those little things that I'm like, you know what? If I know that much about my physical father, how come I don't know that much about my godly father? And this past year has been one of those moments where I have truly, truly, truly invested in getting to know my heavenly Father. And the more and more I invest and I spend time with him, and even to this day, I still spend more time with my physical father sometimes than I do my, God. But I'm getting better and better and better. I just really spending time with him, and I'm enjoying it, getting to know my Father. And I'm just kind of going to wrap this up and tie this back into what Dennis was talking about last week. He did that kind of series on knowing God's voice. What does that sound like? And that's actually that's the first class we have in YWAM, is hearing God's voice, because it's just so important to know your Father's voice. And, I think that's one of the biggest things for us as Christians. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's especially, okay, we'll go to this topic. I knew from the day Dennis asked me almost a month ago, hey, Everett, will you come speak for us? I go, sure. I was like, okay, God, what am I going to speak on? I didn't get anything the second he gave it to me, but I just started spending time with him, and it just started developing. Just kind of like, okay, no, you're going to talk about this. This is how it's going to go. Da-da-da-da. I go, okay, cool. Started writing stuff down, started thinking of some verses, started, trying to put this thing together. And then, there's that doubt in the back of your head. Am I really hearing God? Is this really what he wants me to share? Because, fathers are one of those topics I personally believe that it could go south really, really quick. Because as I said before, people have fathers. And if you tell them, hey, God the Father, they automatically go, oh, so then they go back to the original thought process that I had. Zeus, up on there, looking down, ready to smite, kill, da-da-da-da. Okay, I don't want that God. So then you turn them off. But then you're like, oh boy. So it's one of those things like, did I really hear from you, God? This is really what I'm supposed to be sharing. And last Sunday, I'm sitting right about where Liz is, or right behind Liz. And he was talking about hearing my voice, about the pastors or the sheep knowing their pastor's voice. And I was just staring at Dennis, and I felt like I just heard yes. I was like, yes? Yes to what? And I just felt like he said yes to your message, which you were going to share. So up almost 2.5 weeks of questioning, is this really what I'm supposed to share? And I just heard yes. And you just do that through building your relationship with him. And just thinking about that too is back to my original father. I know that man's voice better than most things. He had this whistle. It was a death-defying whistle. Oh my good gracious. It was, we were playing out in the fields. We used to play in the fields all the time. We had a crazy childhood. And I had a dog. His name was Granite. And Grant and I were out in the fields, and we were just hanging out and stuff like that. A lot of times I had to go find Granite because he got in a relationship with a cow. That's serious. They grew up together, and hey, where's Granite? I don't know. You'd walk a couple miles out, and he's sitting there laying next to a cow. Fun fact, he actually helped a cow give birth one time. We were looking at one of the calves, and it had a little bite mark in it. Like, what the heck happened? It looks like that when she was about ready to give birth, he jumped up, grabbed the leg with his mouth, and tried to help her pull it out. It's kind of funny, actually. That dog had issues, but it was an amazing dog, let me tell you what. And he had this whistle that literally from a long way away, you hear a whoop. I can't do it to save my life, but we'd come running. And this still affects me today. I'm almost 30 years old, but he never uses it on me anymore. He uses it on our dogs. They have 2 Bernese Mountain Dogs now, and we could be down by the river or down by the creek or something like that. You hear that whistle, and you're like, okay. And then you get up there. Everett, what are you doing? You called. I was calling the dogs. I'm like, are you kidding me? I haven't lived with you in 10 years, and that stupid whistle still is just like, it's buried in us, you know? And that's my goal with like knowing God's voice to the point where I could be anywhere at any time and just a whoop. I'm like, oh, yes, you rang, you know? And so that's kind of where I want to leave you guys today. And I want to leave some time too, just in case you guys need prayer. If you guys want to come up, and I'd love to pray with you guys. And after Mr. Hall comes up and does communion, if you guys need prayer or something like that, just please come up. And I'd really, really, really like to pray with you. I had some verses that are just kind of clarifying, you know, God as our Father, but I feel like that was probably hit home A-okay. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much just for having me, and I had a lot of fun up here, and I hope it was clear, at least if one of y'all understood something. That's my goal, and I love you guys, and thank you so much.